And it is being recorded and people are joining. Fantastic. Am I sharing the right screen? I am sharing the right screen. Wow. This is flawless, Cesar. This is flawless. Usually I mess up something.
Yes. Look at that stream of participants coming in.
That's fantastic. We're going to get started in just a second. We're just going to give people a few minutes to roll on in before we kick it off today. If you're from the West Coast, act like you're from here, as they say. No, good morning. If you're from Europe, good afternoon. I hope dinner isn't too delayed. It's the compromise of worlds. If you're in the Middle East or Southeast Asia, then I hope you fix your sleeping schedule soon. All right, people are still rolling in. We're just going to give it a minute more and then we're going to get started. Let's see. Okay, I think we'll just kick it off and then people can join as they please. Hello, everyone. Welcome to this What's New in Autodesk Forma June edition. My name's Jesper. I am one of the regular hosts here. And today I have my colleague Cesar with me. Cesar, would you like to introduce yourself?
Hi, everyone. My name is Cesar Escalante, Technical Marketing Manager for Autodesk, based on San Francisco. And good morning, good evening, wherever you are in the world.
Fantastic. And again, my name's Jesper. I'm an architect at Autodesk, same as Cesar. And we are going to be talking you through all the updates that's come for Forma the last quarter. We're going to speed run you through it and make sure you get up to speed as fast as possible. Before we get started, there's a couple of people in the Q&A ready to answer your questions. Thanks for joining us, Ben and Amira, in the chat. And as you may have guessed, this is a quarterly series, so you'll catch us every quarter. This is probably going to be this is the last recap before summer. Next one is probably going to be a recap from news that happened at Autodesk University, I assume, in October. It's going to be a lot of great stuff happening there. You're going, right, Cesar?
Absolutely. Hope to see you there.
So some logistics before we get started. If you're joining through your computer audio system and happen to experience audio or lag issues, you can try to refresh your browser or use a new browser. You can also dial in using your phone by clicking audio settings if you are currently driving, I guess. Please send us all your questions using the Q&A section and we'll do our best to answer them as we go or at the end. And lastly, this is being recorded and feel free to share the recording with your colleagues after the fact. You'll receive the recording on email after the presentation. And on that note, I guess we'll just dive into it. So we always do sort of a key themes for Forma. What's the key theme for a product development the last quarter? In the last quarter, the three themes were kind of locking in around is around collaboration and enhancements to how you collaborate using Forma. There's better building design features, and there's an upgrade to the analysis suite in multiple ways. We have deep links to analyses, we have an update to our navigation, and there's a new whiteboard tool, appropriately named Board, which we're going to be playing around with today. You'll see solar energy analysis coming out of beta, and there's a new analysis mode, which is just mint. I love it. So, question for you guys, question for you all. Would you like for me, I've done this thing, the presentation up ahead, and my question is really, would you like for us to run this webinar the way we usually do, or would you like to do it directly in Board? That's my first question. We can either run it as a PowerPoint like we are doing right now, or if you'd like, we'll just try to do it in Forma Board and gung-ho it. No guarantees about qualities. It's something I slapped together an hour before this. Cesar wasn't aware. I'm sorry, Cesar. I'm just like throwing you out in the deep end here. But it looks like the Forma Board has to vote for now. Cool. Let's do it. Let's see. Cesar, do you want to paste the invite link to the board in the from the speaker notes to the chat in case people want to follow along
Yeah.
live and in person? And I'm just going to switch it over. Okay, let's close the pool. Boom, there we go. And it's going up in chat in just a second. And if you want to play along, then feel free to play along. And we are going to run this directly in board. Can you all see my board screen now? Yes, awesome. Wonderful. So what's new in Autodesk Forma June? There we go. Thumbs up. Love to see it. Love to see it. So this is the Forma board. I guess we'll just start there. Yeah. There. I'm gonna make a mess out of this presentation. Just give me a second to stop this, like so. Here we go. So this is the board. It is a whiteboard. It's built directly into Forma. Hello, Miguel. Thanks for joining us. If you're joining the board, your name is going to show up. So if you don't feel like doing that, then don't. You'll see the typical tools you'll be used to seeing from other whiteboard solutions. You'll have draw tools. Maybe you'll need to do a revision cloud. Maybe there are images you'd like to do, arrows you'd like to do, post-its you'd like to add. Hello, everyone. Awesome. Really great to see you guys here. And then there's a commenting feature. Say hello here if you'd like to join in. There you go. Now, the beauty of this is you guys have a so-called viewer access, so you can't do edits to the board, but you can comment. So if you feel like commenting, go ahead. If anybody feels like abusing it, I'm going to switch back to the PowerPoint just so we can keep on track. This board it's a beautiful, easy to use, built directly into Forma kind of board where you can quickly draw stuff in. So you can add snapshots from different parts of your design. So, hey, here's my new wind analysis. You can also do live views or sort of historic views of what's happening on there. Hi, Miguel. Okay. What you'll see here, which you guys just experienced, is a so-called deep link. So you'll find these all over Forma now, share boards or share analyses, where you can link viewers directly to what you are seeing on screen, which is just a really efficient way to figure out how to collaborate and get people to look at the stuff you need them to look at. And this is good for building inspo boards. It takes URL references and embeds like YouTube videos, which you'll see in a second. And yeah, so try it out. It's all new. It's brand new. Some of the features you're seeing here was added at lunch today, so you don't get any fresher than this. What do you think, Cesar?
This is awesome, Jesper. And I'm coming from the time where these used to be manual prints that were very cumbersome to put together. You had to print, they were expensive. And now they are digital, and it's aligned with the visual thinking of architects. And what I like it is it keeps this record of the evolution of the design through conceptual design that you can always refer to make sure you have a visual backup of your decisions that happens. Who were the collaborators? It's easy to share across the stakeholders. And what I like it the most is that it's super easy to use. So
and that's the beauty of it, right? It's not going to replace our sort of our InDesign, but it's definitely something that's really easy to slap up to have a meaningful conversation, collaboration going. And on that note, let's talk about how we're improving the navigation. So navigation in Forma is changing. And will this run? That's my next question. There we go. And you'll see at the top of the menu, you'll see there's a new sort of design, compare, and board on the top line. This is a sort of temporary state. As you know, Forma is a cloud product that keeps evolving. This is a first experiment in order to make these collaboration features more integrated into your core workflows, easier to find, easier to use. So step one in many steps in how to integrate new workflows and better collaborative workflows. Oh, we get some YouTube ads at the tail end of this. That's fine. Another one we're running into right now is the new analysis view mode, which is one of my favorite updates for this one. What you'll see is that the analysis view pops out into the separate window inside of the full design board. And the beauty of that is you never really lose context of what's happening behind. So if you close this sort of mini view, you get immediately back into where you were designing. And then you'll find, you'll be able to explore your option and then run back directly in your design mode immediately without getting distracted. Now from this, you'll find the usual. You'll find the ways to sort of expand it to your full view if you prefer to do that, and also for deep linking and switching between analysis. It's much easier than before. So I love this thing.
I agree, Jesper. I think this gives our customers the ability to control the experience of the iterative work. So you can basically have the analytical view on one screen, your project view in another screen, and expedite your reactions to the analytical results and making real-time changes on the go. So I think this give increased user satisfaction and better enhanced user experience.
Right. And using this myself, of course, this is all happening in a browser, so I would open multiple tabs and put them everywhere. And that's still a valid way of doing things if you prefer. But what I found myself doing was sort of opening stuff in tabs and then forgetting them and finding them, 4 hours later in my day. I was like, oh yeah, I was supposed to be looking at this. So this keeps you in that flow state for longer. And that's why I like this so much.
And in the previous iteration, you were locked to the analytical view, right? And if you wanted to jump back into the project, then you have to close the analytical view. In this way, now you have both things open, and it opens the discussion to an extended stakeholders, and I think that's great. Let's see. And question, Jesper, is this for all analytical views?
This is for all analytical views, except for the rapid analysis. So the machine learning models and the stuff that's reacting to your design in live is still happening in the design mode as before. But the RAN analysis, the deep analysis, are opening in this view. So yeah, check it out. It feels really good in practice. That's what I can say about that. Next up is the building visualization, which has been improved. And I touched on this briefly last webinar. What you'll see here is sort of the floor plans where you can start to build sort of your rough outs of your interiors. And you are now more than ever able to sort of define your units and understand set up your distribution. So you have more sort of visual control over where your units are, where they're facing, what kind of functions and types they are. And this is another one of those smaller incremental upgrades. And what this upgrade does is something that immediately happens on the next update I'm going to show you, and that is the new schedule for units. This one I'm actually really excited about. So again, you can change these visualizations both in design mode and in the floor plan mode. And there's a units distribution or a builders distribution, and you can look at the different kinds of types of functions you have, but also look at your units and your breakdowns. Where do I have the small apartments? Where do I have the big apartments? Or, I'm talking apartments now, but this could obviously be whichever ones you want. And then you can start filtering this and open the new schedules. And the schedules gives you a building by building by building or unit by unit by unit thing. So you can really, really dig into this. Which I think is also one of those things where it's just neat that it's here, neat that it's available, neat that you can sort by fields, and of course that you can export this as a CSV and use it in whatever else software you would like. I think you did some Power BI stuff, didn't you, Cesar?
Yes, and just like like those the functionality in Power BI or even in Revit. I mean, this bidirectional associativity between data and geometry, it's something that architects relate to a lot, because you can actually interact with the data and see how visually connects with the project, or you can be in the project and analyze the data behind it. And I think this connection in two direction is essential in the way we do projects.
Absolutely. Next up, next big ticket item here is that we are finally taking the solar energy analysis out of beta. And that is something to celebrate every day of the week. Because I think solar energy is one of those things that really surprised me about the assumptions I had about solar energy. Because immediately when I see solar energy, I'm like, oh, okay, PV energy, PV panels, right? That's the point of this. Why else would you look at solar energy? And that is me coming from sort of a place where solar energy is never a problem. It's, I'm up north in Norway. But obviously, if you are designing in sunny California or in Thailand or anywhere sunny, then you are probably more worried about the amount of energy hitting your facades and especially your windows than you are about anything else. So it's energy first, and then you can do solar panel potential and assumptions based on that. And taking it out of beta is just, fantastic.
But it's not only on the sustainable side, it's also a financial incentive. By lowering operation costs, you reduce reliance on conventional energy, you increase market value, and you can even make your project eligible for financial incentives on your region. And I think this combination is good to have from early on in the design.
That's a very good point. Imagine sort of trying to HVAC systems yourself out of a poorly designed facade. It's always a problem. So seeing these problems up front, always good. Next up, we've upgraded the App Store, the extensions in Forma. It's now integrated, and that's not how you spell it, integrated with the App Store, so that you can get more information about the analysis. So the new App Store experience is like this. There's a contextual menu for each of these different extensions. You can go in there, you can download, you can read more about them. And the App Store publishers have a lot more sort of control over how they would like to present their extensions. And you'll see extensions there from Autodesk, such as the Dynamo Player, but you also see third-party extensions. And they can kind of promote their stuff better and better explain what it does. So love to see it. It's also on the back end, a merge between the Forma extension and the Autodesk App Store. So it's the actual App Store inside Forma now. And you see stuff related to Forma there. So that's beauty. Convenient. Speaking of convenience, one of the extensions that's just released is Fenestra Pro, an envelope analysis. And this is a really cool one because it's taking a lot of adjacent analyses from Forma and then using them to interpret stuff their own way. So what you'll see in the extension here is that it's looking for synergies between the architectural aesthetics of the building and the energy performance. It's a good match for us, we think. And it gives insight into the envelope design and how it affects building performance. And you can visualize this on the model. So you can see sort of a representation of a wall-to-window ratio for the whole building or for individual facades. And it's then connected to construction specifications or local building codes and regulations around the building envelope based on where you are in the world, right? Because this is a georeference model. And then it starts to tell you if you are complying or not complying with local code. I'm really excited about this. When I tried it, it didn't have US codes in yet, but I've been told that that's in now. So that is really cool. And I look really forward to seeing how this sort of gets adopted. And it's really nice because it's talking about a lot of the same things that we keep talking about, right? We're talking about window-to-wall ratios. We're talking about kind of insulation values we have. And again, it's that story of, like you said, Cesar, solving a problem before it becomes a problem, right?
And Jesper, I'm familiar with Fenestra because I used it when I was back in industry as it integrate with BIM workflows, in particular with Revit.
Mm-hmm.
But the beauty of this is that we can now start making those early design decisions more in the conceptual phase, and start seeing how you can identify potential issues before construction, um, and how can we comply with energy efficient standards and regulations early in the design process, so we don't have to wait to the D in order to start making those decisions. So test this integration. I think you're gonna like it.
Yeah, and it's for now at least a free integration, so definitely jump on it, try it out. I know the Finesta Pro people are really keen on feedback, how they can improve and sort of tailor this to your needs. So let them know. There's a link to the Finesta Pro support and feedback directly in the extension. All right, moving on. We're really speeding through here today. So we talked about this last time, and in fact, me and you, Cesar, we ran a full webinar on this, on the embodied carbon in tech preview for Forma. And as is with a cloud product, the release is just the beginning. So since we released, one of the biggest sort of like pain points for me at least is that you had to do building by building. So you had to define parameters for every building, one after one after one after one. And you no longer have to do that. You can now do a multi-select and do and change the parameters for several buildings at once. And that allows you to quicker iterate and explore the embodied carbon potential of your sites. And this is one of those things that gives a directional guidance. And there's a lot to dig in here. So if you're really interested in this, or if you're a little bit interested in this, or if you think you should be interested in this, you should check out the webinar we already ran on this. It's on the webinars.autodesk.com, available on demand. And what this does specifically is give you a total embodied carbon estimation based on the georeference model you have, based on the volumes you have on site, and then just a simple sort of parameters input. This is a hospital, it's a steel structure, and it has so much this kind of facade. Really basic inputs. And it uses a machine learning model to estimate roughly where you're going to end up, where you're creating problems, where you can find opportunities. So I'm excited about this. What do you think, Cesar? Did you try the multi-select yet?
Yes, and a lot of this new functionality comes to the direct feedback from customers like you guys online. And so I encourage you to engaging with us as far as how you want to see this approach improved. But what I like it is that you can make these informed material selections again early in the design process and see the low carbon impact in the life cycle. And so move away from just the design thinking into more life cycle thinking. Mm-hmm. And the other thing is that these come right on time when building codes are becoming, are incorporating embodied carbon requirements. California is just enact its first embodied carbon requirements in July this year. And I think getting a hold of how you, or start thinking how you're going to comply with this regulation, it's a good move for us. So take a look at this and share with us what you think.
Yeah, and this is one of those things where you have this tool now in Forma in this early stage conceptual modeling phase, and then there's a broader analysis built into Insight, which you can find through Revit, right? So you can keep tracking your stuff while you're designing all the way through your design stages. So that's exciting. Speaking of exciting updates, the sun hours analysis has a statistics update. If you're into statistics, you're probably not an architect. I'm joking. I'm into statistics. But you'll see on the right side panel here how the hours and the breakdowns of your sun hours is now more detailed. There's more information here. You can filter, sort, and figure out if you're getting a lot of sun or not a lot of sun on your areas. And depending on your goal here. You either want to maximize sun, or maybe like I'm doing here, looking for afternoon sun, after work sun. Where should we have, where should we consider placing private balconies, for example? So this is just more statistics coming to existing analyses, and that is exciting. And then on the similar vein, our settings has a new set of functionalities. This is also one of those constantly evolving ones. You can go into your area metrics and your settings, where you can do a lot of basic sort of custom analysis, custom properties, custom unit sizes, so that you can really start to look for the data you need to make sort of your early design decisions. So that could be a ratio mix. It could be, let's see, I want to see apartments between 0 and 35, or 35 to 55, or whatever specifically you need for your market, instead of using the defaults out of the box, which I know a lot of people kind of don't know, but you can customize all of this stuff to fit exactly your need. And I think that's cool. And then there's another easy quality of life upgrade right here. So for a while here, you could only get area metrics on site limits. You can see it down here in the right-hand corner. And that's annoying, so they fixed it. You now get area metrics for zones, area with trees, or surfaces. And that's cool because you can do a lot of things with this. So zones can obviously be sort of your building zone, or your half of your first stage of your building phase. Surfaces can be whatever you want it to be. So you can say, hey, this surface is a playground. I'd like to see how much sun it has. I'd like to make sure I have enough playgrounds for my project. That is something that's required in your project. And you can kind of just more easily get the numbers you need while designing. The next one I know you're excited for, Cesar.
Yeah. This is a good development.
So some of the like minor annoyances are being eliminated here, where you switch between wind comfort and wind direction. That would clear the inspection points. They fixed that. So now the inspection points are persistent between those two analyses, and you can sort of double check wind speeds versus comfort versus whatever else you need in order to figure out if you're creating comfortable outdoor spaces or not.
And this is particular important if you're trying to keep track of the development of a specific area in your design, where your design decisions are critical. And so keeping this data persistent, it's key to have a good history of your data evolution. Do you know if this might be incorporated in other type of analysis?
It's persistent for most others. This is just one of those we kind of forgot.
Okay.
So it should be persistent. And if you do in a compare mode, for example, you can analyze on multiple places at once, which I think is really cool. So if you jump on over to compare, I'm just going to do it live because why not? And throw up a couple of different ones. Let's do daylight here, and then do sun hours here. That's it. So this one I like a lot for comparative analysis. So if you're looking at daylight potential and you're looking at solar potential, if you tag 1, then you tag 2, right? So you can like look at the exact same point for different kinds of information. And you can even start splitting this out into even more points of information. So you want to look at wind here, and you want to look at your microclimate there. You can really sort of start to dig into comforts versus wind versus everything else, and start to understand your microclimate conditions on ground. And what happens if we look at this? You see it shows up in all 4 of them at once. So it's comparing apples to apples, right? That's the most important part here. Let's see if we can zoom in for you guys. Thanks for bearing with me while I do this live. It's kind of a stunt, but I'm having fun. I hope you guys are having fun as well. Next up is there's an update to the Forma add-in for Revit. And this is particularly important for me and USSR because I think we are the only people in the world that are already adopting Revit 2025, right? Everybody else is still working on old projects. No, but for real, there's an update. It now supports Revit 125. There's a new create mass families for building envelopes and define mass floors. There's an option to create generic models, which creates single material for each different Forma category. In the material settings, I'm just going to pause the screen here so you guys can see it. Hang on, YouTube, give me the bestest of quality. Thank you. That's not good, but you can always play it for yourself afterwards. So check it out in Revit actually. And there's a bunch of like general bug fixes and improvements. And I am such a fan of this Revit integration or the way it's coming along.
And for those who are new in this add-in, the plugin also has a feature called send to Revit. Sorry, send back to Forma. So you can make changes in Revit and then transfer the changes in Revit back into Forma for further analysis. And so this bidirectional workflow ensures that the design remains fluid and cohesive between the two platforms. We're slowly taking care of some of the hiccups that are coming in the process. It's not an easy transfer, but we are making it happen.
That is for sure. Next up, a quality of life improvement. So there's a pixelated edge to the noise analysis through some interpolation magic that's been fixed. It's nice and smooth and visually pleasing. And you can find a similar upgrades, visual upgrades to the analysis for all other upgrades as well. So that's just a feel-good story for me.
No one likes pixelated images, Jesper.
Exactly. It's I think especially for our like sort of early computer generation, it's pixels are bad, vectors are good, right?
Yeah, so this is smoother and less blocky look. It's enhance our experience of the results.
Yeah. And you'll see a lot of these minor visual fixes to a lot of the analysis. Next up, we obviously have an upgrade for the Rhino update as well. There's now support for custom colors for Forma functions. So the Rhino extension is kind of the same as the Revit extension in that if you start a project in Forma and you prefer to use the modeling tools of Rhino, then you start your project in Forma and then you link it to a Rhino file. So you can do your modeling in Rhino and then you do your analyses and optioneering in Forma. And you can kind of send back and forth as well. So you're opting then to use Rhino as your design engine and Forma as your analysis engine. And then, so that's, it's actually a really good upgrade right now where it feels really good. I've been playing a lot with it. Of course, there's always need for upgrades as long, so let us know if you find any hiccups, but you'll now find additional element types for Forma, and you'll see a lot of performance improvements and general bug fixes here.
I was playing with this, Jesper, the other day, and what's good is that you can have your for your Rhino layers in alignment with the programmatic segmentation of the project, and keep the RGB colors. For example, if you have a conceptual massing that in Rhino and you have different programmatic colors for the different spaces, then those RGB colors are kept in Forma. And so that's, you don't have to reset them again in the unit function in Forma.
Yeah, awesome. And then my last slide is the product updates that didn't warrant a full sort of breakdown, but there's an option to do custom circles to analyze specific areas in detailed noise. New users can now define their use case when joining and then get some customized onboarding. I know Daria, which usually does these webinars with me, is really excited about this, and she's looking into how to make onboarding even smoother, even though that's kind of one of our strong suits. She sends her love, by the way. If you guys have been joining us for this year, she couldn't join this time, so Cesar volunteered. If you are requesting access and we're joining projects, you can see which admin you're actually requesting access from. So you can ping them on Slack and say, hey, you need to read your emails. That's happening a lot to me, I'll be honest. And then there's feedback and help links in for the extensions. So if you're into building extensions or if you're into giving more feedback to extensions, there are new links for that available on the Help Center. And You know what, guys? That is the updates we have this time. So let's see if there are any questions we could sort of speed run through here. We want to get you, give you some time back, as they say in the corporate world. What we say is we want to be efficient with your time. So see if there are any good Q&As that haven't been answered, and then see what we can do with that. So somebody asked, why not combine InfoWorks and Forma as well? I'll have you know that the InfoWorks team and the Forma team are talking to each other, and they're very curious about how sort of these things can work together. It's an obvious match in many ways, especially if you start thinking about less of the architecture persona, but more of the civil engineers and the sort of people. And there's a lot of interesting tech in InfoWorks that I wish more Autodesk users knew about, even us architects. Like I keep finding stuff in InfoWorks that's like, oh, didn't know I had access to this. Michael asks, do you have Canadian building codes integrated? I'm betting you're thinking about Fenestra Pro. You should ask them. Or better yet, you should make a project in Canada and run the extension and see. Last I checked, they did at least some North American localizations in the US, at least. US is obviously being the big market. If they don't have Canada, let them know that you want Canada. I guess that's my best poke. And are those bidirectional workflows coming to earlier versions of Revit 2? Yes, and they've been there for a long time. We've just been really bad at promoting it. I think it's from Revit 2020 and up, or 2022 and up. I'm not sure if it's the 5-year or the 3-year gap, but if the Forma extension is available for Revit, then also that bidirectional link is there and supported.
There are two ways to install the add-on. You can do it directly in Forma. If you right-click on a proposal, you will find download the app, or you can go to the app stores and get the latest and greatest.
Yeah, and since I have this up, I'm just gonna throw it up there. So if you are in Forma and you have something you would like to send to Revit, it is 2 ways to do it. So you can either click on the triple dots, go down to Revit, and then send to Revit. You can also find the Revit add-in link there. Or you can visit the new fantastic extension store.
I think you should in the PowerPoint, Jesper.
Oh, see, that's me not doing my job. Here we go. You can see my screen now, right?
Yes.
Yes, he said. So in the App Store, you can find the extension for Revit. You can find the extension for Rhino. It's like you would expect in the App Store, but also if you have, you're sort of speeding along, triple dots, Revit, and you can opt to download Revit, add in from here, and send to Revit from here. That is how you do things. All right, let's see. We have time for a couple more questions. Not going to keep you if questions slow down. Armando asks if Forma has its own servers or if it's integrated into AEC. It's a separate server system for now.
For now.
For now, yeah. For the foreseeable future, I guess. There's a European data center and a US data center. Now, ACC just released one in Australia, and I wish Forma did as well, but let's see how these cloud products sort of converge over time, I guess. Jose asks if you can pass information from Forma to Revit and vice versa several times or just once. So first time you send from Forma, you need to start a new Revit project. This is kind of one of these reasons why it's still in a beta, because you would really want more options on how you do this. And then you can send from Revit to Forma and keep. So if you opt to use the Revit thing, at one point you say, hey, this Forma project should now become a Revit project. And then you're basically saying, hey, Revit is now my authoring software, so I'm going to design in Revit, and then you can keep sending to Forma to do the analyses, to do the Forma board, to do the stuff you want to do in Forma. This, I know, is one of the limitations that keeps it in a beta, because a lot of us architects, we have a building that's done in Revit, and we would like to use it somewhere else, so we'd like to test it on a new site, or we would like to, use the stuff we were used to. So improvements are coming. Amanda asks, if not, can I integrate project into ACC? If you send to Revit, you can save that as a cloud model to ACC. That's what I usually do. So if I won't need to store stuff, I'd like, you know what they say, if you store projects on your local computer, they don't exist at all. That's a poor backup strategy. So what I do, I use docs as my file repo whenever I send stuff. Either if I go to Rhino, I use data exchanges to put it on ACC. If I use Revit, I use cloud models to save it on ACC. That's how I do it, but it's not connected yet. Let's see, if I hit with you with some questions, can you answer standing up, Cesar, or?
Let's see.
Miguel asks, can you select to export only parts of the model from Revit to Forma, or is the only option to export the whole model?
I think it's
That's a
dependent.
tricky one. You can do a view filtering in Revit.
Yeah, it's
Whatever
depending
you
on
do
what the
view.
content is on the view, exactly.
So
So
you
whatever
do,
is in the view, you can isolate it and send the content that's visible.
and if you have a highly detailed model, don't send that to Forma. That's not what it's for. So get rid of your mullions, get rid of your overly detailed railings, and sort of get the parts of the geometry that you care about to Forma. Let's see. Santiago asks, where does this platform take information from to make these analyses? Sun, wind, energy potential, and so on. So every project in Forma is georeferenced. So that gives you your geolocation, right? Based on your geolocation, you'll be able to get a global wind atlas where you can pull local wind conditions. You can also upload your own sort of, I think they're called EWP wind files, if you have those at hand. I know a lot of you guys have, but knowing where you are in the world, having the correct context of your project, right? You have your buildings, you have your terrain, you have your heights. That's going to give you the correct sun conditions. Energy potential is also a result of just sun exposure, right? But then for deeper sort of breakdowns on how these analysis works, there's a analysis help center that really goes into depth about how these are done, what kind of standards they're using, what kind of assumptions they're making. So give it a read. But basically, yeah, the whole premise here is trying to figure out how much information Forma can give us without us giving Forma that much information, right? Is Form project like BIM 360 that they can be accessed from cloud? That's how you're answering this. It's a cloud product. It's in the browser.
Yeah, there's no file format for Forma. It's all on the web.
On the
We can
web.
export it to DWGs or OBJs, but not. They are not. It's fileless. That's the beauty of the cloud.
And then we're gonna end this one with a big question, a complicated question, but it's a really reasonable question. So, Patricia, I'm sorry if I mispronounced this. In a large-scale Forma project with multiple building components in orientation, how does Autodesk software optimize the placement and configuration of PV arrays to maximize energy production and minimize shading impact while considering local solar radiance data? So there's a lot of elements to that question. We'll start with the bottom, local solar radiance data. So you have a georeference model, which means you know where the sun is and you know how much sun you're getting. You also have local contextual data. So you'll be, so that's your starting point, right? So you know how much sun is actually hitting your geometry. Now, when it comes to placement and configuration of PV arrays, that is an optimization question, right? So you have sun hits my building this, how do I face each of these panels correctly? How do I turn them? And that is where you need a generative design algorithm. So there's built-in some generative design elements in Revit, and then there's Dynamo you can use to react to and flip and rotate these things, but it's not a built-in functionality. So that is something where you use the analysis suite in Forma, and then you build on top to find sort of a solar panel system. And I know there are some proprietary non-public extensions that does this exercise for specific customers that they've made themselves. but it's not a current feature of Forma to do all of that in one. So it's a question and answers kind of exercise. Hope that answers your questions. All right, and I see that is just about all the questions that came in, since I was answering one by text. I'm not going to keep you. If you guys want to hang out, then you saw me and Cesar's emails and the first slide, and you'll find us in the forums. If you want to talk.
Jesper, what are your top three?
My top three. Design mode, new design mode that pops up. I thought that was a minor thing, but it feels so good to use because it keeps me in the flow state and I can kind of just exit out and like jump between analysis so much faster. Love that. Of course, the board. It's just I didn't think I would like that either because I really don't like those whiteboard solutions. I think they're clunky, but it's nice to just have right there. So I'm sold. That's my top two anyway. What about you?
I share your top two, but I also like the improvements we're doing with expanding the ecosystem with third parties, the App Store and Fenestra Pro, and there's more on the works. So I like how Forma is enabling a connection with different authoring desktop and web-based services down the line. I think it serves our customers in a great way. Yeah.
I agree, and I'd love to see that these sort of like Autodesk partners that we know and love are kind of jumping on and making tailored solutions for local markets or for specific needs. So that's
We have an open API, so anyone can develop something that suits their needs.
yeah, and we're seeing extension from like just a student that wanted to do something specific to like huge platinum Autodesk partners doing stuff, and they're all sort of on the App Store now. So I think that's exciting. All right, guys. Thanks all for joining. We're not going to keep you. If we see you at the AU, then say hello. If not, we'll see you on the webinar in October, hopefully. Check out Forma and enjoy the rest of your day.
Have a
Thanks.
good one.